you empty the clip because that's what they said.
Her life mattered to me and to everyone. She was loved. If she wasn't loved by the world, she was loved by us, and we accepted her for who she was. My baby back, but I am going to get justice for my child.
In the late hours on November 10th, 2015, a father would kill a college student and bury her behind an elementary school. She had just called her mother telling her she was attending a college game, words that would be the last anyone would hear from her. It wasn't until 10 days later when her car would be found abandoned in Gary, Indiana. Nearby, police found her broken glasses and shoes. But this would only be the beginning of a missing persons case that would rock the community. But what had made this case even more disturbing? The one person who was supposed to love and protect her, the father of her child, was the last to see her alive. As the investigation unfolded, what seemed like a tragic missing persons case would soon reveal something even darker. 8 years later, the shocking truth would come to the light. Not only had the father of her baby killed her, but he had buried her behind the very school where she had once walked as a child. This is the tragic disappearance and death of Rochelle Stubblefield. 20-year-old Rochelle Stubblefield was born in 1995. She was a young woman with a heart full of love and big dreams, living in Whiting, Indiana. From a young age, she was driven by a desire to help others, particularly those who came from similar backgrounds to her. Soon, her path would take her to a place where those dreams could become a reality. Rochelle was studying criminal justice at Willamette College in St. Joseph, with aspirations of becoming a CSI investigator or a private investigator, inspired by her love for TV shows that depicted the justice system. As she dove deeper into her studies, her vision for her future became clearer. She was known for being smart, caring, and deeply inspiring to those around her, always social and full of energy. Rochelle was the kind of person who loved to see everyone happy and go out of her way to bring joy to others. Her natural ability strengthened her drive to make a real difference. Whether she was helping her peers with their schoolwork or offering assistance to elderly neighbors, she was always there when someone needed help. She even helped people with tasks such as insulin injections for the elderly, showing her deep sense of compassion for others.
Rochelle was very outstanding, outgoing. She helped everybody from people who needed assisting in school. If, they needed help in anything, like the elderly, she would go to their house and help them with the insulins and all this type of stuff, things that nobody would ever believe that Rochelle would do. She would go out her way and do it for you. She would take her shirt off and give it to you if it's needed. Yes.
Rochelle was not only academically driven, but she was also deeply passionate about her studies. She was extremely motivated in school, always striving for excellence, and had a clear vision of what she wanted to do with her life. Her dreams of working in law enforcement were fueled by her passion for justice and a desire to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Rochelle was the life of the party. Known for her outgoing and fun-loving personality, no matter the occasion, she could always be counted on to lighten up the room. Friends and family described her as the person who would never want anyone to be sad and always try to make everyone feel included and valued.
She was doing a project for the homelessness. She actually slept outside in the box in the cold every year to make awareness of the homelessness of people that live outside in the cold. And her heart was just full of love for everything and everybody.
She had an incredible ability to connect with others and made them feel seen and heard. Her love for people and her sense of community were central to who she was. Whether it was her peers at school or the elderly people she helped in her neighborhood, Rochelle was a bright light in their lives. She had a strong sense of empathy, and that's why she was so passionate about pursuing a career that would eventually allow her to make a difference, particularly for people who looked like her. But it was the injustice she saw in the world that truly sparked a fire in her for change.
She had a really big interest in criminal justice, right, in helping others and saving or rescuing others.
Rochelle's aspirations in the criminal justice system weren't just career-driven. She had a personal connection to her dream, as she wanted to serve her community and be a voice for those who often felt unheard. The injustice she saw in the world sparked a fire in her, and her goal was clear: to make a difference through her work in law enforcement. Her long-term goal was to become a private investigator, someone who could fight for justice and bring closure to families in difficult situations. She admired the dedication and passion of law enforcement officers and wanted to contribute her skills to serve and protect others. So it came as no surprise when she caught the attention of a man who would change her life forever. 20-year-old Rochelle would eventually get involved with a man, 27-year-old Darren Fuller. Darren was someone she had known for a very long time. Rochelle's mother recalls that they had become friends in grade school. The two connected instantly. They were both young, shared similar interests, and seemed to truly enjoy each other's company. Their connection had started as a friendship, but it blossomed into something more when they became romantically involved. Darren was someone Rochelle thought she could trust, someone she believed she could build a future with. But not everyone was in support of the relationship. Rochelle's mother had reservations from the start. Her mother had always felt that there was something unsettling about him. But Rochelle, ever the optimist, dismissed these concerns. She believed that love could change anything. She was determined to prove her mother wrong. Their relationship at first seemed like a normal teenage romance. They spent time together, laughed, and enjoyed the early stages of their bond. But soon, things took a darker turn. There were subtle signs of control and manipulation, but Rochelle, blinded by love and the belief that things would improve, overlooked them. Darren's behavior became increasingly possessive, and he began making comments that made Rochelle uncomfortable. As time went on, his emotional control grew more apparent, but she continued to convince herself that it was just a phase and that he would change. But it wasn't long before the abuse would become physical. The earliest red flags Rochelle's mother noticed was when Rochelle came home one day with a purple bruise on her arm. When her mother asked her about it, Rochelle brushed it off, saying she and Darren were just playing around. But this incident was just the beginning. Over time, the physical and emotional abuse escalated. Darren would become jealous and angry over trivial matters, and Rochelle would often find herself apologizing, even when she wasn't at fault. Despite these troubling signs, Rochelle's love for Darren remained strong. She wanted to help him, to fix him, and to prove to herself and her mother that their relationship could work. But as much as she wanted to believe in their love, the cracks began to show. Darren's temper worsened, and it became increasingly isolating, controlling who Rochelle could see and what she could do. When Darren enlisted in the U.S. Army and was stationed at Fort Knox, Rochelle's life took another turn. While some might have thought that distance would make things better, it only seemed to fuel the toxicity of their relationship. The constant back and forth between love and manipulation wore on Rochelle. Soon their relationship took a significant turn. Rochelle discovered she was pregnant. Both Rochelle and Darren were overjoyed by the news. They couldn't wait to become parents and start this new chapter of their lives together, despite the surprise of it all. They were excited. Despite the ongoing tension, the news of her pregnancy seemed to be an unexpected ray of hope for Rochelle. She believed that having a child could be the catalyst for change in their relationship, a chance for Darren to become the man she had always hoped he would be. But in reality, things only became more complicated. The physical and emotional abuse didn't stop, and Rochelle found herself trapped in a relationship that was becoming increasingly toxic. Her pregnancy didn't change Darren's behavior, it only amplified the power dynamics, as he began to further isolate her from her friends and family. As Rochelle's life continued to revolve around Darren and their unborn child, the fear and uncertainty she felt grew every day. What no one saw was signs that her pregnancy would lead to tragedy. On November 10th, 2015, Rochelle, who was 8 months pregnant with her due date just a month away on December 15th, 2015, at this time, she was actively involved in her college's track team and had planned to attend a basketball game with some of her friends. That evening, Rochelle sent a text to her mother letting her know she would be late because she was meeting Darren after the game. It was a simple message that seemed normal at the time, but it would be the last communication anyone would have with her. Rochelle was leaving the basketball game after it finished, but no one could have known that what was supposed to be a night out with friends would become the last time she was seen alive.
Rochelle was a full-time student at Calumet College of St. Joseph and also a member of their track team. Rochelle attended classes on November 10th, 2015 and was last seen by her friends attending the girls' basketball game.
Her mother, who had always been protective of her, was aware that Rochelle was meeting Darren, but she didn't think much of it at the time. She trusted her daughter's judgment, even though their relationship had been strained at times. What was supposed to be a simple outing, however, took a dark turn that night. When Rochelle didn't return home or reach out to the next several hours, her family became concerned. 2 days later, after no contact from Rochelle and with mounting anxiety, her family filed a missing person report. The uncertainty and fear that gripped her loved ones were unimaginable, as they wondered where Rochelle was and why she hadn't returned.
Well, friends and family of a missing pregnant mother from Indiana are asking the public for help in finding her.
The mother of the missing woman believes her daughter's boyfriend had something to do with her disappearance.
Maryville Police Department advises that they had an active missing persons case for Miss Rochelle Stubblefield. At the time she went missing, she was 8 months pregnant. Her due date was December 15th, 2015. We have searched several locations in an attempt to locate Miss Stubblefield and baby Stubblefield with no success.
On November 12, 2015, the Maryville Police Department began an active missing persons case. The missing persons investigation was launched, and authorities began to piece together the last known details of Rochelle's whereabouts.
We have spoken to several individuals during the course of our investigation who were cooperating initially, but are no longer cooperating with our investigation. At this time, we are reaching out to the public, asking for any assistance in locating Rochelle and baby Stubblefield and bring her home to her family.
Surveillance footage from the area revealed that Rochelle had indeed left the basketball game and was seen walking away. However, from that point forward, there was no trace of her. Her disappearance remained a mystery that would haunt her family for months, as they desperately sought answers and feared the worst. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation intensified, and the search for Rochelle extended beyond her hometown. Friends, family, and volunteers scoured the local areas, hoping for a break in the case. Yet, as the hours passed with no sign of Rochelle, her family was left with only questions and fear. Investigators spoke to several individuals who initially cooperated but later stopped assisting with the investigation. Despite these setbacks, the police continued their search. The timeline of Rochelle's disappearance pointed toward Darren, who, as her partner, was the last person known to have seen her. But Darren had a different version of events.
A man by the name of Darren Fuller was reportedly Stubblefield's boyfriend at the time of her disappearance and the father of her unborn child. But when the police interviewed him, he said he wasn't dating and wasn't her baby's father. He said he didn't know Stubblefield's whereabouts, but that she had talked about going to Atlanta, Georgia.
On November 23, 2015, Darren was located and questioned by police. Darren denied dating Rochelle or being the father of her child. He claimed she had talked about going to Atlanta, but the lack of physical evidence made it difficult to make any concrete conclusions, leaving Rochelle's family in a state of anguish and uncertainty. Meanwhile, across town, something else was unfolding. 10 days later, Rochelle's car was found abandoned in Gary, Indiana. Nearby, police found her broken glasses and shoes. Not only that, a breakthrough came when two of Darren's cousins provided police with a tip.
On November 20th, 10 days after Miss Stubblefield was last seen, police got a tip from two of Fuller's cousins who said that during a phone conversation, he admitted to killing a woman who was 8 months pregnant. 8 months pregnant with his child. Fuller supposedly stated he choked her and stabbed her in the temple because he didn't want to pay child support.
They claimed Darren had admitted to choking and stabbing Rochelle, saying he didn't want to pay child support. They also told investigators that Darren buried her body at an elementary school in Gary. Darren Fuller initially denied any involvement in Rochelle's disappearance and death, claiming that all the accusations against him were lies. He insisted that he had no idea where Rochelle was and denied any wrongdoing. However, despite his protests, the police remained suspicious of his statements. Investigators noted inconsistencies in his account of events and continued to press forward with their investigation, refusing to let the case go cold. As part of their efforts, numerous searches were conducted at the elementary school where Rochelle's cousins claimed Darren had buried her body. Despite extensive digging and scouring of the area, no physical evidence was found that would corroborate their story, leaving the case stalled and without clear leads. The lack of evidence, coupled with the uncertainty surrounding Rochelle's whereabouts, made it seem like the case might go unsolved forever. For over 5 years, Rochelle's family was left in a painful limbo, unsure of whether they would ever see justice for their daughter, sister, and friend. The pain of not knowing what happened to Rochelle, coupled with the mounting frustration of the lack of progress, was nearly unbearable for her loved ones. But new information surfaced that would breathe life back into the case. In 2019, a woman dating Darren at the time would reveal something unsettling.
The girlfriend later told authorities that she picked him up at Williams Elementary School in Gary, and that he told her something had happened to Stubblefield and he had done it. He started throwing Stubblefield's belongings, including her identification, out of the window of the girlfriend's car. Investigators later found some of those items, including her glasses, which were broken, and her shoes.
She told investigators that on the day Rochelle disappeared, Darren had picked her up at the elementary school. He was reportedly throwing Rochelle's personal items, including her glasses and shoes, out of the car window. This was the same location where Rochelle's belongings had been found shortly after she went missing, giving the police a significant lead they hadn't previously had. Not only that, the former girlfriend also revealed something far more chilling. Darren allegedly admitted to choking Rochelle to death. This revelation was a pivotal moment in the case, as it provided the breakthrough that investigators needed. For years, Rochelle's family had been left in the dark, but now, with this new information, authorities could finally take concrete action. As a result, Darren Fuller was charged with the murder of Rochelle Stubblefield and her unborn child. In July 2020, the police arrested him in Kentucky, where he had been hiding out. When authorities took him into custody, he was charged with 2 counts of murder, Rochelle and her unborn child, and 1 count of obstruction of justice. Darren reportedly passed out, as if the weight of the charges had finally hit him. At his first hearing, he pleaded not guilty to all the charges and was held without bond. The arrest was a long-awaited victory for Rochelle's family, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter in their fight for justice. They had spent years searching for answers, and now, with Darren in custody, they could finally begin to see a path toward closure. However, the emotional toll of the years spent in uncertainty would never fully disappear, and the pain of losing Rochelle, along with the trauma of her unborn child's death, remained a heavy burden on their hearts. Darren Fuller's long-awaited trial finally began in March 2023, bringing hope to the family of Rochelle Stubblefield after nearly 8 years of anguish and unanswered questions. Prosecutors argued that Darren had a clear motive for murdering Rochelle. He didn't want the responsibility of raising their child. As a young man with a budding career, he saw this pregnancy as an obstacle, one that he was determined to eliminate at any cost. This, prosecutors claimed, was the driving force behind the horrific act. 2 key witnesses testified against him. Both witnesses provided damning accounts of Darren's confession, recounting how he had admitted to killing Rochelle and how he had callously disposed of her body. The testimony from his former girlfriend in particular was crucial. Despite this, Darren's defense attorney tried to argue that there was insufficient evidence to convict him, claiming that the prosecution had no physical remains of Rochelle to present as evidence. It's important to note that this case became a rare example of a no-body conviction, where prosecutors were able to secure a murder conviction without ever recovering the victim's body. The challenge was immense, but the weight of the testimonies and the circumstantial evidence against Darren was enough to convince the jury. The trial wrapped up in April 2023 after weeks of emotionally charged testimony. The jury deliberated for just over 2 hours before returning with a guilty verdict. Darren Fuller, now 28, was found guilty of 2 counts of murder, one for the death of Rochelle and the other for the death of her unborn child. He was sentenced to an aggregate of 94 years in prison, a sentence that would keep him behind bars for the rest of his life. The sentencing brought a sense of justice to Rochelle's family, but it was bittersweet. While Darren would never walk free again, their daughter and sister's remains remained missing. And that gaping void was something no conviction could fill. Despite the conviction, Rochelle's family continues to struggle with the overwhelming grief of not having her remains to mourn. The knowledge that Darren would spend the rest of his life in prison offers little comfort when they cannot bury their loved one. Rochelle's family remains adamant in their search for closure, urging anyone with information to come forward. The search for her body is ongoing, with investigators still combing through possible locations, hoping for that final piece of the puzzle to give Rochelle and her unborn child the rest they deserve. Rochelle's family has been vocal in their plea for answers, speaking to the public and the media in hopes that someone, anywhere, might have information that could lead to the discovery of her body.
I feel like you don't want to go on, but you know I have to, because I got 3 other children that I have to be strong for, and it's really, really terrible. And it hurts every day, all day.
In the face of an unimaginable loss, Rochelle's family has continued to show immense strength, determined to ensure that Rochelle's legacy is not overshadowed by her tragic death. They have vowed to fight for justice for their daughter and for the memory of the life she never got to live. Even as the legal battle concluded, their quest for answers continues. The trial may have ended, but the journey to bring Rochelle home is far from over. I am deeply saddened for the loss of Rochelle Stubblefield, a bright and loving soul who was taken far too soon. We stand with Rochelle's family, friends, and all who loved her as you navigate through this heartbreaking loss. Rochelle's memory will live on in the love she gave, the dreams she had, and the positive impact she made in the world. We hope that in time, the beautiful memories of her life will bring comfort and peace to those she leaves behind. What do you think about this case? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.